This is a PC I bought for $69 a long time ago, and today I'm making a much bolder decision, optimizing it to play as many games as possible, with $0 spent. I know a huge part of my audience is on a tight budget. Some of you are watching expensive PC build videos on a barely usable machine, or worse, on a phone. But I also know something else. A lot of people are still having fun gaming on the worst hardware imaginable. So instead of throwing more money at upgrades or building a brand new system, what if we push a cheap PC as far as it can possibly go? No new parts, no extra budget, just pure optimization until every game is playable. To take this PC to the next level, the first thing you need is, well, a PC to begin with. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, I picked this one up for $50. If you're wondering where to buy something like this, eBay is usually the safest bet. The downside is shipping. Sometimes it kills the deal, and suddenly that cheap PC isn't so cheap anymore. Facebook Marketplace can be even cheaper, but let's be real, the scam risk there is way higher. This is an Acer Veriton X 4630G, released back in 2015, running an i5-4570. You can still find these on eBay for around $50 today, which is honestly wild when you remember this thing cost close to $800 at launch. In 2026 money, that's full-on high-end gaming PC territory. Now here's the funny part. If the PC was only $50, where did the rest of the budget go? Simple. The GPU. This system came with what might be one of the worst dedicated GPU ever made, the GT1030, 2GB DDR4. On the used market, it goes for about $20, and with just 2 GB of VRAM, it looks absolutely tiny in a world where even 8 GB is starting to feel tight. Honestly, I wouldn't even call this a real graphics card. It's more like a very expensive HDMI adapter pretending to be a GPU. And yeah, blaming everything on the GPU is easy, but cheap PC almost never fail because of one bad part. They struggle because everything is slightly wrong at the same time. And that's where things get interesting. Low FPS isn't always about weak hardware. A lot of the time, it's the small stuff. For example, my RAM sticks were installed in the wrong slots. They should have been in matching slots to run dual channel, and that alone can cost you a noticeable chunk of performance. Luckily, I upgraded to 16 GB of RAM, which is basically the minimum you want in 2026. Anything less, and once RAM fills up, the system starts hitting the page file on the drive. And that's when stutters get really bad. Another big one people overlook, CPU temperatures. Old thermal paste turns into concrete over time. I had to pull the cooler, clean everything up, and apply fresh paste just to get the CPU back to normal behavior. And finally, power. A weak or unstable PSU can quietly hold performance back. In this case, I'm running a 220-watt power supply, which is actually more than enough for this setup. Stable power, no throttling. And the part that makes this machine not completely useless is the storage. Let's be real, trying to game on an HDD in 2026 is pain. An SSD is mandatory. Before jumping into games, I updated all drivers to the latest versions. No shortcuts there. To figure out what's actually playable, I set 2 simple goals. 60 frames per second for esports titles, 30 frames per second for story-driven games. Modern games are heavier than ever and often poorly optimized. Even newer GPUs struggle sometimes, so expectations matter. Before launching any games, I did some quick Windows optimization. Nothing crazy, just the basics. Set Windows to best performance optimize and clean up drives. Disable all unnecessary startup apps. Turn off overlays, Discord, Steam. Set the highest refresh rate. Enable game mode, disable game bar. Toggle hardware accelerated. GPU scheduling if needed. Turn off background apps and notifications. That's it, no magic tricks. Just removing the stuff that quietly kills performance. Alright, let's start testing performance and see how this system actually does. I'll begin by launching each game without changing any settings, and only optimize further if it doesn't meet my expectations. The first game is Valorant, a fast-paced esports title. At full HD resolution, FPS matters a lot. You already know this. If your opponent has higher FPS than you, well, you've basically lost your advantage. So with this setup, my goal is to squeeze out as much FPS as possible. Valorant is very well optimized for lower-end hardware, so reaching over 100 FPS in deathmatch is fairly easy. That said, even 100 frames per second can sometimes turn you into a moving target. Input lag still shows up occasionally, especially when multiple enemies are nearby. At this point, the GPU seems to be the main bottleneck, so I drop the graphics settings even lower. And as you can see, FPS jumps up significantly, peaking at around 170 FPS. However, the CPU is starting to struggle, so performance isn't perfectly stable. Still, the FPS stays within an acceptable range. Next up, we move to a more demanding title for this system, CS2. Here, both the GPU and CPU become limiting factors. Even with settings pushed all the way down to low, FPS sits close to the 60 FPS mark, which doesn't quite meet my target. I could increase FPS further by lowering the resolution, but that would come at the cost of overall experience, and I don't want to go that far. So instead, I decided to overclock the GPU, adding 100 MHz to both the core and memory clocks. The result? FPS does manage to climb above 60, but it can't hold that number consistently. During intense firefights, FPS still drops down to around 50. Overall, overclocking proves to be an effective way to gain extra performance without spending any money. At this point, performance is stable enough for me, so I'm not going to push the optimization any further. Next up, I jumped into an older AAA title, Tomb Raider. At full HD with normal settings, this game is still very approachable performance-wise. Average FPS sits above 50, and overall gameplay feels smooth and stable, more than good enough for a single-player action-adventure game. Even in heavier scenes, FPS only dips to around 40, and that's without any overclocking or weird tweaks. It really shows this PC can comfortably hit its FPS targets at 1080p with light settings. But right before calling it a win, I decided to crank up the difficulty with something much heavier, Elden Ring, a game that's notorious for bullying GPU. And yeah, it showed. At full HD, I was getting around 13 frames per second, which is painfully low and basically unplayable. So I had no choice but to drop the resolution down to 720p, where FPS finally climbed back to 30+, which is at least playable. The downside, image quality took a hit. Jagged edges were very noticeable. You could turn on FXAA or TAA to smooth things out, but those come with an FPS penalty. And at this performance level, I really can't afford that. Next up is Forza Horizon 4, a racing game with stunning visuals and famously good optimization. Even so, at full HD, I was only getting around 22 frames per second, which honestly isn't playable. Dropping the resolution down to HD didn't really feel like the right move either, so I decided to push the GPU a bit. With a simple overclock, things started to look better. At around 1,835 MHz, FPS jumped up to roughly 35, which is a noticeable improvement. It's still not perfect, but compared to before, the game finally feels a lot more responsive and actually playable. Next up is a game I honestly never thought this PC would even stand a chance against, Cyberpunk 2077. At full HD, the game was basically unplayable. FPS hovered around 10, and my eyes couldn't take that for long. So I dropped the resolution down to HD and turned on FSR in performance mode. That nearly doubled the frame rate, but honestly, it still wasn't enough to feel good. Next, I pushed the overclock a bit further, plus 170 MHz on the core and plus 130 MHz on the memory. At best, I saw peaks of 29 frames per second, but most of the time it sat around 25, which I can't really call a win. I tried pushing it even harder, but the game immediately crashed and refused to launch. At that point, I switched to a performance optimization tool called EXM. There's a paid version with more features, but I stuck to the free tools. And surprisingly, it worked. FPS finally hit 30. Not locked all the time, but close enough. For me, that still counts as a small victory. This is easily the heaviest game I tested in this video. So yeah, I think it's fair to say this $69 PC can handle most games out there. If you're not chasing ultra graphics or the latest AAA titles, this system is still totally usable and surprisingly capable for the price. And if you want to see me push these budget SFF pre-built PC even further, click the video on screen.